It was one of those evenings that carried a quiet sense of accomplishment. The sunlight slanted into the tall windows of the lake house, casting a warm, golden glow along the oak trim. The table was arranged for 6, white dishes, silverware gleaming. My sister was pouring wine. Dad chuckled at something unimportant. Mom watched him the way you'd look at the man you once married, not the man I now knew him to be. I had just sealed the deal on my 3rd property. Early retirement wasn't a dream anymore. It was tangible. Tonight was meant to mark that milestone. Or so I believed. Dinner's ready. I called out from the kitchen. That's when I heard it. Not a yell, not even a whisper. Just a low, offhand sentence drifting from the office. Door slightly ajar. The kind of sentence that rewrites everything in your world. Instantly. Your sister's not getting a dime. He didn't say my name. He didn't have to. There was a brief pause, and then my sister let out a nervous laugh. Part guilt, part acceptance. And Mom? She just smiled. Smiled. I stood there, tray of roast chicken in hand, suddenly hyper-aware of its weight. The walls felt tighter. The air harder to breathe. Every chuckle from that room afterward landed like a blow. I set the tray down gently, walked right past them without a single word, and headed to the guest room. That night, I didn't cry. I logged into the family trust account, the one we were all supposedly part of, the one Dad thought I didn't watch. But I had power of attorney for one reason only. He'd made me executor before Mom began whispering poison in his ear. I transferred it all. Quietly, lawfully. No alerts, no alarms. Liquidated, reallocated, locked behind the holding company I'd set up 2 years prior. Back then, I thought I was just being cautious. Turns out, I was simply early. 3 days passed before he realized. Then came the calls. First polite, then angry, then desperate. Instead, I sat on my condo floor, glass of Cabernet in hand, laptop glowing, voicemail after voicemail pouring in. You don't understand what you've done. But I understood perfectly. What they hadn't figured out was me. Dad thought he was clever. Redrafting the will, making my sister the sole heir, creating a dummy trust in her name, even adding a clause to cut me out if we became estranged. Mom helped with the wording. She always knew how to twist a knife with elegance. What neither of them realized was that the notary, the lawyer who finalized every document, was working for me, had been for months. He let me scan every paper, feed it all into the system I'd built. Emails, financials, audio recordings too, thanks to the tiny device I planted in Dad's study during Thanksgiving. Funny how loud silence can get when you really know how to listen. When I finally agreed to meet, I chose a lake house. Same setting, very different mood. No wine, no laughter, just Mom, Dad, and the chair at the head of the table, which I pulled out slowly and sat in. I looked them both in the eye. Before we start, I said, I want you to know I recorded everything. They froze. January 4th. In the office, you said I get nothing. Mom opened her mouth to speak. I held up a finger. I also have the amended will, the fake trust, the withdrawal attempts from last week. You committed fraud, tried to steal. And more than that, you revealed exactly who you are. Dad stood, face red with rage. That was my money. No. I said, calm as still water. It was ours. And now, it's mine. Every cent is accounted for. Every move you made, documented. I gave you a gift. I didn't press charges. My sister wasn't there. She was wise enough to stay away. What followed felt like snowfall on a battlefield. Quiet but deadly. Dad brought in lawyers. But the evidence drained him before we ever saw a courtroom. Mom tried shame. Letters. Emails. She even forced a few tears once. But crocodile tears don't move the hand they try to bite. My sister remained silent. Maybe out of remorse. Maybe out of instinct. Either way, she vanished from my view. Didn't matter. 6 weeks later, I bought the lake house under a shell company. Foreclosure's a cruel thing. I gutted the place. Sold off everything. Except for one chair. The one I sat in that day when I reclaimed everything. Some nights, I sit alone on the deck, whiskey in hand, stars overhead. It's quiet, honest, not the kind of hollow peace they use to dress up in smiles and sweet wine. People say family is everything, but that's not true. Truth is everything. And when the people who raise you lie to your face while spooning dessert onto your plate, you learn fast. Betrayal doesn't always come with blades. Sometimes it shows up with cake and Chardonnay. So yes, I heard what he said that night. And I moved every cent before they even stood from the table. What they never realized was that I'd been bracing for this moment my entire life.